No Christmas is complete without some sweet treats. They're fun to make, and you can make them to give out as gifts, but you can also keep them for yourself. Hey y'all, I'm Valerie, and welcome to my kitchen. In today's video, I'm sharing 5 sweet treat recipes you can make for Christmas. Okay y'all, let's get started. I'm gonna make some peanut butter filled bugles. I've heard people call them Santa hats, and even elf shoes. So to make them, we're gonna make the peanut butter filling first. In a medium-sized bowl, you're gonna add 1 cup of creamy peanut butter. And for those of you that are gonna ask about the crunchy peanut butter, I don't think it's gonna work for this. You're also gonna add 1/3 cup of powdered sugar. Now just mix these two together until they're nice and smooth. Oh, and if you have a peanut allergy and can't have peanut butter, you could actually leave it out and decorate them and they would still be really good. But if you can have peanut butter, I highly suggest adding it. Okay, you're going to need a sheet pan. The recipe called for a 7.5 ounce bag of bugles, but you're going to want to get the family size, trust me. You'll need bugles that are open like a funnel. I had to sort through them. It ended up being like half the bag were flat and half the bag were open. And you can see here what I'm talking about. The one on the right is what you want. You can save the flat ones though and use them for a really good homemade Chex Mix. And here I just added all that peanut butter filling to a Ziploc bag. Just snip the corner off and use it like a popping bag to fill up those bugles. And you can fill these full, but don't let them overflow. And I'll be honest, this does take a little time to do, but it is totally worth it. When you get those all filled up, you're going to melt down about 10 to 12 ounces of Vanilla Almond Bark. And we're going to dip these like you're making a little bitty Santa hat. We're also going to add a little M&M to this, but after I did that first one, I learned a better way, so stay with me here. So after I dipped that opened end in the almond bark, you're going to lay it down on the cookie sheet, and I just took my spoon and dipped it in chocolate and touched the very tip of that bugle just to add a little bitty dot of chocolate on top, like the little white ball on top of Santa's hat. And then you're going to slide an M&M into that opened end. And here I got smart. After I dipped it, I went ahead and added that M&M before I laid it down on the cookie sheet. It was much easier to add that way. Oh, and add any sprinkles you like. I just did red sanding sugar. I had to turn it around here so you could really see how cute they were. Oh, and about those sprinkles, I would stop after about every 5 bugles to add the sprinkles. That way they stick before that almond bark sets up. These turned out so cute and they were delicious. That salty from the bugle and the peanut butter and the M&M and that white chocolate, these were so good. And I'll tell you, you can't eat just one of these. They are addictive. And my family is already asking for more. These are the Little Debbie Christmas Tree Cake Truffles. You're going to need 2 boxes of these Christmas tree cakes. You'll need 10 cakes total. And you're also going to need a container of store-bought vanilla frosting. Now you can also do this with the chocolate Christmas tree cakes with chocolate frosting. So I took all of those cakes and added them to the bowl of my stand mixer. And you're just going to give it a really good mix. I wanted to see how the consistency was before I added the frosting. Now technically you could do it like this and leave it as is and not add frosting, and they would still hold together and roll into balls. But I thought the frosting would be really good in here. The recipe called for 1/3 of a cup. I think you could get by with a tiny bit less. So next time I make them, I'm only going to add like 1/4 of a cup of that frosting. Maybe even try a couple tablespoons at first. Mix it until it's very well combined, and then I covered this and placed it in the refrigerator to chill for about an hour until I was ready to roll them. I just used a cookie scoop, and mine is like a 1.5 tablespoon size cookie scoop. Just roll it around in your palms until it's smooth and then place it on the cookie sheet. and then continue until you've used up all that mixture. Now I'm placing these in the freezer for about 30 minutes before I dip them. That way they're nice and chilled. I'm ready to dip them now, so I melted down a half a package of vanilla almond bark. Or you can do white chocolate, but the almond bark is just a whole lot easier to work with. And here I'm just fixing some that weren't completely round. I'm just using a plastic fork that I cut off 3 prongs to dip these with. Now, probably because these were so frozen, I left them in there a little longer than I wanted to. They did not want to come off that stick, or the fork, I should say. But after you dip them, you can just dip that fork in the white chocolate and touch the top. That way it'll cover up that hole. I'm adding green sanding sugar to these, and don't mess up like I did and wait too late to add sprinkles because they did not want to stick. And those you seen on that pan there, I had actually popped them in the oven at like 300 degrees for like 45 seconds just to get them melty enough so the sprinkles would stick. And now you're going to melt down some red candy melts and use a Ziploc bag or a piping bag to pipe 3 little squiggle lines on each truffle. And I'm telling you, after you do a couple, it gets easier. Here's those other ones, and I ended up getting a total of 28 truffles. And that was from the 2 boxes of Little Debbie's, so I'm sure if you needed more, this is a really easy recipe to double. And actually, I wish I would have made more. And these were so much fun to decorate. The white chocolate with the green sanding sugar and then the little red squiggle lines. They made them look just like a little Christmas tree Debbie cake. And that soft, fudgy center was absolutely delicious. I have got to try these with the chocolate version. I seen this Snowflake Crunch and I just had to try it. We're going to melt down our chocolate first. We're going to need 2 different kinds, but first you'll need some Vanilla Almond Bark, 16 ounces. I went ahead and popped that in the microwave for about a minute or so to let it get a head start on melting just before I added the chocolate chips. Only because once you add those chocolate chips in, you got to be very careful not to burn this. I stirred the almond bark and added 1 small bag of white chocolate chips, and then I melted it in 30-second intervals until it was completely melted. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the snowflake mixture ready. In a very, very large bowl, you're going to add a box of HoneyComb Cereal. I used a 12.5 ounce box. You're also going to add a jar of roasted salted peanuts. Now give that a quick little mix. And you could really feel free to change up the cereal in here, but that honeycomb was perfect to look like a snowflake. Now you're going to pour all that melted white chocolate on top and then mix it until it's very well combined. And I had to keep tossing this around and tossing and tossing and tossing just until everything was completely covered in that chocolate. You may think that everything is not ever going to get covered, but keep going, it'll eventually get covered. And you want to kind of work quickly here before that chocolate has a chance to set up. Now I have a really big sheet pan and mine is lined with a silicone liner, or you can line yours with parchment paper. You're just going to dump all this on the pan and then spread it out. Spread it out as evenly and as thin as possible. And I'll go ahead and tell you, the more pans you can use to spread this out on, the better. If you let it harden up in a really thick layer, it's a lot harder to break apart when it's done. And after you get it spread out, you're going to immediately add sprinkles. Only if you want to, though. I had a little bit of the snowflake sprinkles that were perfect. I wish I would have had more of them. So I used the rest of that bottle, and then I grabbed some gold sanding sugar. But you can add red and green sprinkles or whatever you like. And it's a really good idea to go heavy on those sprinkles. That way you'll be able to see them after you break all this apart. And I wanted to show you, I just really wanted to spread this mixture out thinner. So I ended up adding some to another cookie sheet. And here's another good tip. Right before it's completely hardened, that's the time that you want to go ahead and try to break this apart. Now, I got excited and broke this apart a little bit too much, but you want to break it into small chunks. I'd say break it until they are about maybe 2 or 3 of those pieces of cereal stuck together with some peanuts, of course. But whatever size you decide to break yours, it will still be good. And I have to say, I'm pretty sure this was my favorite Christmas sweet snack mix that I have ever made. I've been wanting to try chocolate covered potato chips for a long time now, so I finally did it. I didn't really follow a recipe here, I just kind of went with the flow. I melted down about 1/4 of a package of chocolate almond bark. I'm using Ruffle Potato Chips, and this is so simple. You're just going to grab a potato chip and dip it 2/3 of the way in chocolate. Now, I will say I wish I would have used milk chocolate for this instead of the almond bark. So after you dip it, you're just going to lay it on the cookie sheet and go ahead and add sprinkles. Any sprinkles you want, or just leave them plain. And then you're just going to keep going until you've made as many of these as you want.
Jingle bells, jingle, jingle all the way. On the right, and my ball, let's say, jingle bells, jingle all the way.
That was Lainey. Okay, I just let these sit out on the counter until they were completely set. And since I already had those chips out and there were so many broken ones in that bag, I came up with another little treat here. I melted a 1/2 package of Vanilla Almond Bark, and then I got some of those potato chips and just broke them up and added them right on into that chocolate. And I think the smaller pieces you break them, the easier they'll be to hold together in little treats. And you just want to add chips to the chocolate until that chocolate is not super runny and all the chips are completely covered in that chocolate. Make little mounds on a baking sheet, topped with sprinkles, and you are good to go. I definitely have a new favorite treat here, and surprisingly, it was not those first ones. They were good, don't get me wrong. I'll make them again, but next time I'll use something like milk chocolate or semi-sweet chocolate instead of the chocolate almond bark. But I've learned that I much prefer the vanilla almond bark over the chocolate. But those white chocolate potato chip clusters, I guess I could call them that, they were absolutely delicious. Maybe because I crushed them up and maybe they had a little more chocolate ratio in there, but they were so good. And yes, this was one of those that you keep grabbing more of. I had cookie dough truffles on my mind, but I decided to do a shortcut. I'm just going to put them together on a cookie sheet. I had a package of the ready-to-bake chocolate chip cookie dough, and I noticed on the package it said safe to consume raw. And I was like, yes, this is brilliant. They're already portioned out and everything. So you're just going to take one of those little, it's not really a circle and it's not really a square. You're going to take a piece of cookie dough and you're going to squish it together in your hands and then roll it smooth into a ball. Place it on a cookie sheet and then continue until you've rolled all those cookie doughs. You'll get 24 if you get a 24 count package. And I did pop these in the freezer for about 30 minutes to chill before I dipped them. Now I'm melting down a bag of semi-sweet chocolate chips, or you can use milk chocolate. And y'all can get mad at me if you want, but I'm adding some of this paraffin wax. I added about 2 tablespoons worth. It just helps to thin out that chocolate and give it a little shine. And it doesn't melt quite as easy at room temperature. Oh, and I did melt all this over a double boiler. And to dip these, I just used the good old fork method. Probably not the best thing, but I was in a hurry. Yes, so when I dipped these and placed them on the cookie sheet, that cookie dough truffle was so frozen, it just wanted to stick to the fork. After I did a couple though, it got easier. And you're just going to dip all those in chocolate. If you want to add sprinkles, you can, but I did not. I did pop those in the refrigerator to chill though before I was ready to eat them. And I had a little leftover chocolate, so I wanted to try these the little nonpareil candies. Really easy to make. You just get the sprinkles that are the little bitty circles, not the sprinkles that look like rice. The little teeny tiny balls, and I poured them into a paper plate. It was a smaller paper plate. You want a good thick layer of those sprinkles, and you're just going to dollop little tiny spoonfuls. I used a baby spoon. Just dollop little circles on top of those sprinkles. And that is it. You just let them sit here to harden or put them in the refrigerator, and then they are ready to eat. Oh, and these also make a really good filler in your candy boxes for the holidays. And something like these truffles, if you don't want to add sprinkles, you could also melt some white chocolate and drizzle over the top. Only if you just absolutely want them to have a little decoration. And I'm going to need a show of hands. How many of you used to eat the cookie dough out of the roll package when you were a kid? I mean, I'm pretty sure we ate more of that cookie dough raw than we ate made into cookies. These turned out so good. I was so happy. They are a 10 out of 10. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe down below for more easy recipes, and I will see you in the next one.